Hi, I'm Jenny and I work for Compass and I'm the evaluation officer on the community-led care project, and I want to take you through some of the ripple mapping that we've done on the project for year one for the Preseli Cares project. And I just want to talk you through the ripple mapping because we've got a great map, but it's not immediately obvious what it all means. And I thought I'd go into a little bit more depth for you here. So this is us. We met together in April of this year, and there were 11 of us, and it's a mixture of people from third sector organisations locally. There's people from local authority, somebody who works for the health board, there's some people from just members of the local community as well, which has always been a really central part of the Preseli Cares project. Obviously to get local residents and community members involved. And they've been meeting regularly throughout the past year as part of the project development group for Preseli Cares. And we got them all together and we went through a set of questions, which I'll show you on the next screen. And we had a timeline and we split them into 3 groups and we asked them to map out all of the things that had happened, all of the connections they'd made, any changes that they'd seen in terms of, actual changes, structural changes in their organisation or mindset changes, any kind of changes that were significant to them. And this is one of the maps that we got back. And you can see that lots of different people had kind of mapped out things that were important to them. And then we went through all of these maps together. They sort of fed back to the group. And we also had a discussion and it raised more points and more sort of recollections of things that had happened over the past year. And from that, we plotted this map of that session of all of the changes and impacts and ripples that had come out of this project. And I'm going to talk you through each month at a time to give you some more detail. So September, and this was when the project really kicked off. And Joe, our development officer, held a launch event, which was great. And 58 organisations attended that from all sorts of different sectors. And it also then became sort of on the radar of Community Council, and they were very supportive of the project, which became key kind of for the project's development. And one of the things that came out was an interest in micro enterprises, particularly micro care. So we can see in October how that sort of impacted. So of those organisations that attended the launch event, then came to the marketplace event, which Joe organised in October. And lots of those organisations were able to kind of showcase their services and speak to people that came from the local community, but also meet each other, which was really key. And the marketplace event was held at Preseli, which is an extra care housing facility. And coincidentally, there was the residents' coffee morning at the same time, which was great because that enabled the residents in Preseli to kind of access all of the support and information that was available at the marketplace event. And as you can see at that point, North Pembrokeshire Access to Nature and Wellbeing became involved, and we've done a kind of Zoom-in interview with Laura from that organisation to get her sort of perspectives on the project. Lots of new connections were made. People were able actually to see the Preseli accommodation and either, look at possibly moving in there themselves or being more aware of it so that they could make people that they support aware of that as a housing option. Particularly interesting, transport is a big issue in Preseli, and 12 people were able to access support from Green Dragon Transport, who were at the marketplace event, which was really positive. We also recruited 7 people to be change makers for the project, and between 15 and 18 people received advice, support or information during that event. Another group that got involved was Frame, which we'll go on to talk about in the later slides. But and there was also a community member that got involved with a Compass-led co-housing event. So that was another sort of link, another kind of idea that was sparked from that particular collaboration. In November, following on from the involvement of the Crummer Community Council, they've got strong links with Men's Sheds in Hermont, and they started to get new referrals through from Enshed, which was really positive. In November, we also had another marketplace event, but our Start Something Good hack, which was really positive, brought a lot of organisations together, including the All Wales Forum, which is an organisation supporting carers and parents of people with learning disabilities. And we also involved the direct payments team, who've become quite sort of central to the project. And the idea was kind of first presented about pooling direct payments and whether that was an option for people, whether that was something that was going to support people locally. Clinview Care Farm was involved. This is a farm that offers sort of day services to people with learning disabilities and also who struggle with their mental health. And there was a share offer looking at whether the kind of the care farm could be owned by the community, which is something Compass is really supportive of. And there were lots of more conversations about co-housing, which was really interesting. By December, those kind of links had started to lead to kind of concrete outcomes and concrete sort of things happening in the community. As I said, Frame had become involved, another group that supports employment opportunities for vulnerable adults, and they connected with a warm room that was launched in Hermon, and they went down to the warm room, which they only found out about through the kind of Preseli Cares development group, and they recruited 5 new people to receive support and advice for their service, which was really positive. Also, for the warm room, links were made between the warm room and Fairfield Catering, a local catering company, and so that supported the warm room to source local suppliers for their food and their drink, which was really, really positive, really supportive of the local community, of local businesses, and of course the kind of foundation economy. Arian became involved, which is another sort of really positive local organisation that looks at community development and particularly around environmental issues. And they linked in with Canolfan Clydai, which is a community hub. So there's lots and lots of connections being made between groups and between organisations, which is really positive. In January, further kind of developments and links, particularly with direct payments. So the direct payments team involvement led to 30 direct payment recipients receiving information about Preseli Cares, lots more discussions about accessible respite accommodation and accessible short break accommodation for people living with disabilities. And Cup Hat also got involved, which is an ERDF funded programme with Aberystwyth University that looks at cultural and tourist opportunities in particular sort of upland coastal areas, and Preseli is one of those areas. So that's a really interesting linkage. The upgrade of the chapel vestry at Sion Chapel also became quite important, and there were lots of games evenings, and Preseli Cares sort of linked people in, gave people an awareness of what was happening, also developed a warm room in Sion Chapel, and that seemed to lead to a lot more sort of improved communication with local people about what was available in their community and what sort of support was around for them. Also, a project development group member linked in and attended a community meal at Canolfan Clydai, the local sort of community hub, and that developed new volunteering opportunities for them, which was great. Lots of referrals came in to men's sheds, and that increased the number of community volunteering opportunities and engagement opportunities, and lots of sort of opportunities coming from that. February, there was lots of discussions from that interest in short break respite care and accessible accommodation. In February, there was a sort of respitality meeting, which is sort of respite hospitality, exploring how can they increase choice for respite care for people, with caring for people with disabilities who need particular accessible accommodation, and also looking at, again, that direct payments issue, looking at pooling direct payments to facilitate and support short breaks and respite in the area. Again, that kind of linked back to the work being done by Kumarian, and Kumarian also got involved with, because they're community focused, but also about environment and nature, bringing community into nature. Linked in with PSES, which is Pembrokeshire's Smarter Energy Support Service. So green initiatives and energy advice all kind of linked together, which was a really positive collaboration coming out of the project. In March and April, grants to support Welsh language social enterprises. This is through the Perthyn project, which is something Compass is sort of supporting and organising through the development group, through information that was put into Preseli Cares. It's supported to kind of grants and the possibility of looking at PAs, developing opportunities for PAs in the area. There's also a community housing trust, community council, community-led housing ideas being discussed and being interested. Lots of people in the community struggle with access to housing and access to affordable housing, and this is community sort of co-housing has become quite an issue that's of relevance and important to this community. Interestingly, the direct payment member of the project development group was able to attend Bro Preseli and make sure that those residents were aware of what was happening and the opportunities that direct payments could afford them. And in April, and this obviously was done in April, so there was only one thing that came out for April, but there was developing a wellbeing hub in Hermon to give people awareness of wellbeing opportunities and access to services in their area. So loads and loads of things came out of this ripple mapping. A lot of it we would have had absolutely no idea about unless we'd done the ripple mapping. And it's just so positive to see how much of it was around connections in the community. And just organisations that, were just really busy and trying to do the best that they possibly could, but weren't aware of what else was going on in their community. And Preseli Cares has brought people together and fostered that sense of community pride and community cohesiveness. It's built on existing relationships, and it's made new relationships between organisations, and by doing so it's improved collaboration, but it's also improved local people's awareness of services and thereby improving their access to support, advice and information, and that is incredibly positive for the local community. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks very much. Diolch yn fawr.